Today I'm going to be teaching some topics on drug abuse, cultism and occultism, HIV and AIDS, communal and religious conflicts. So it's going to be a long video, and you will definitely need your jotter and your biro so that you can jot things down and do well to pay attention. So I'm just going to get right into it. So let's get right into it. I am going to start with drug abuse. I'm going to start with drug abuse. So I'm going to be talking about the history, the origin and forms of drug abuse, the causes, effects of drug abuse on individual and society, and the cure and prevention of drug abuse. So let's start with drug abuse, right? What is drug abuse? Drug abuse is the wrong or excessive use of drugs, right? It means when you use, it means using, I don't want to say when you use, it means using legal or illegal substances in a harmful way that affect your body, your brain or behavior. That is drug abuse. So it means even the drug could be a legal drug, something that you got legally, but the moment you are taking it in a harmful way that affects your body, your brain or behavior, that is drug abuse. So when someone uses painkillers without a doctor's advice or takes more than the prescribed dose, that is drug abuse, right? Using hard drugs like cocaine, heroin, weed, codeine, tramadol for pleasure or to get high is also drug abuse. That's why I said it means using legal or illegal substances in a harmful way that affect your body, brain or behavior. So drug abuse is the wrong or excessive use of drugs. So right now let's move to the origin and the brief history. So the origin and brief history of drug abuse. So in ancient times, some cultures actually used natural herbs and substances for healing and religious purposes. Because I remember then that my dad would tell us that this tobacco leaf, that when we drink the water that comes from it cures malaria, right? So some cultures actually use natural herbs, and now this tobacco is something that actually get people high, you know, that you get. So some cultures use natural herbs and substances for healing, to heal them, and even for religious purposes. But however, people later misuse these substances for pleasure. you know they started misusing those substances. So in the 19th and 20th centuries, many drugs like heroin, cocaine, morphine became popular, especially in Western countries. And later they figure out the dangers of these drugs. Now in Nigeria and other African countries, drug abuse started growing among young people, especially musicians, students, due to peer pressure and bad influence. So if they ask to talk about the origin and brief history of drug abuse, you should you know talk about how it started from. It was just natural herbs that people use for healing. I mean, while I see that people still say you should take what's it called now, there's some like I mentioned about that tobacco, there's also one that I can't really remember the name, that they tell you to take to be able to like to numb pain you get. But right now people are misusing it just for pleasure, just to escape depression and all of that. And people like around that 19th and 20th century, they began to realize the dangers, and it became drug abuse. So it became wrong for people, to misuse it. So now let's go to the forms of drug abuse, the different ways people use drug abuse, right? Yeah. So the forms of drug abuse, we have use of illegal drugs. That's one form of drug abuse. People use illegal drugs. So when they say forms of drug abuse, it's just like different ways in which people abuse drug, you get. So one of it is using of illegal drugs, like cocaine is illegal. Yeah, in a place like Nigeria, cocaine is illegal. Heroin, marijuana, that's Indian hemp, meth, illegal. So that's a form of drug abuse, using of illegal drugs. Then we have misuse of legal drugs. So there's the legal drugs or legal drugs, right? For example, using of antibiotics. Some people are stuck with using antibiotics, and there was a time where I got used to using painkillers every now and then, that it has turned to abuse. Like any small thing, I'm putting painkiller in my mouth. So that's a form of drug abuse, misusing of legal drugs like antibiotics, painkillers, or sleeping pills without prescription. Yes, I'm also guilty of that sleeping pills. I had to stop it at some point when doctor told me that it's wrong. So that's a form of drug abuse. Then overdose of prescribed drugs. So there is the misuse, right? There's misuse where um you are not meant to use it and you are using it. Then there is overdose, like taking more than what is recommended. For example, your doctor actually prescribed that you should use sleeping pill, maybe half, right? And then you just decided to just take a whole. So that's a form of drug abuse as well, when you use overdose of prescribed drugs. Then another form of drug abuse is inhalants and sniffing substances. You hear people sniff glue, they sniff petrol, just to feel high. So that's another form of drug abuse, when inhalant and sniffing substances. Some people even sniff some things that are even like funny things, right? So that's another form of drug abuse. Then we have excessive alcohol or smoking. That's also drug abuse. So even though it is legal, abusing them damages health. When someone smokes too much, it's also a form of drug abuse. So right now, let's move to the causes and effects of drug abuse on individuals and society. So what are the causes and effects of drug abuse on individuals and society? First off, causes of drug abuse: peer pressure. you know why do people abuse drug? Why do they get into drug abuse? Peer pressure. Some people just want to fit in with friends who take drugs, so they tend to get into it because their friends are taking and they want to fit in. They tend to take drug. Number two, curiosity. Causes of drug abuse. Number two, curiosity. People try to because they just want to know how it feels. I want to know how this will feel. Like someone has talked about tramadol. I want to know how it feels. So curiosity is another cause of drug abuse. Trying drugs just to see how it feels. Then we have another cause of drug abuse is depression. People use drugs to escape problems, or maybe somebody is going through emotional stress. People use drugs to escape problems. Then another cause of drug abuse is family background. Children from homes where parents use drugs, they may copy them, right? So I know that this use of drug consistently, I noticed that I have a brother that usually have this headache too, and then he consistently takes painkiller, and that kind of made me also, I got used to taking painkillers like that. So family background: children from homes where their parents use drug, they tend to copy them. And another cause of drug abuse, pardon me, is media influence. When people see, you see on the TV, you see all these musicians smoking while singing, that tend to influence the people watching. So media influence is also a cause of drug abuse. Movies, music, and social media sometimes promote drugs as cool. They promote drug as cool. And then another cause of drug abuse is idleness or unemployment, right? So some youths turn to drugs due to frustration or boredom. They don't have a job, and then they just give me small, let me just smoke small to get better. So when someone is hiding, they tend to look for what is not lost. And then let me end with the lack of proper education. Some people do not even know the dangers of this drug abuse, and that's why they venture into it. So lack of proper education, not knowing the dangers of drug abuse, is another cause of drug abuse. So now let's look at the effects on the individual. The effect of drug abuse on the individual. So number one, we have health problems. Yes, of course, when someone is involved in drug abuse, there is a tendency of the person having health problems like brain damage, liver failure, mental illness, stroke. It might even be death, you get. And then another effect on the individual is addiction. The person becomes unable to stop even when they want to. So that's another effect on the individual. Drug abuse can lead to addiction that the person won't be able to stop. Then another effect on the individual is loss of focus. Loss of focus. When someone is high on whatever, Indian hemp for instance, you see how the person becomes won't be able to focus, right? And this leads to poor performance in school or even at the workplace. You know, person is not just stable. Yeah. And then another effect on the individual is violent behavior. You see some people before they go out to fight, they are already high. So effect of drug abuse on the individual is violent behavior. Drug abusers can become aggressive, and they tend to become criminal, right? Then another effect on the individual is depression. Yes, depression and suicide. So when someone takes drug, there will be a time that even the drug is no longer working. you know Long-term use can lead to deep sadness or death by suicide. So when you are using it for a long time, I feel like you are tired, it's not working, and then the person can even commit suicide. So another cause of effects on the individual is poverty. Some people tend to they become poor while doing this in the middle of this drug abuse thing, because they spend all their money on drugs. So poverty. Then poor relationship is also another effect on the individual. They tend to fight with family and friends, right? So that's that about the effect on the individual. So when you ask in your exam, you need to like explain more, expatiate more on every point that I gave you, except they ask you to outline. If they ask you to explain, discuss, of course you have to discuss further. So let's look at effect on society. So what I would advise before I move on is that just assume that you are being asked this question in the exam. What are the effects of drug abuse on the individual? Let's say you want to pick 5 effects. Pick your 5 effects and then act like you're in the exam in your own personal space and build on those points. Do your research on those points. Write everything you feel you will write if you are being asked in the exam, or so that you know that you have practiced it and then you already know what to write. So it won't be in the exam, or when they now ask you that question, you start brainstorming on how to buttress your points. You get what I mean? So let's quickly move on to the effect on society. Yes, the effect of drug abuse on the society. Number one, on the society, there will be increase in crime rate in the society. Yes, when we have people that are high on drugs, leads to violent behavior. So increase in crime rate, we have theft, robbery, rape, and even murder. These are often linked to drug abuse. Then another effect of drug abuse on society is we have unstable families. Yes, unstable families. So children suffer when parents are drug addicts. you know Children suffer when their parents are drug abuse, so it leads to unstable families. Some their family member can come and pick them away from their parents, moving from one family member to another, you get. And then another effect on society is overcrowded hospitals. So when they ask for effect of drug abuse on society, make sure you are not mixing it up with on individuals. It's totally different. So on society, it means something that will affect the society directly. So we have overcrowded hospitals. Like many drug related sicknesses take up medical resources. Yeah, you see some people. I remember I have someone very close to me then that was always high. They had to take the person to hospital so that they could take care of him for a long period of time. So imagine there are other people like that person, right? So the hospital will be overcrowded. And then another effect on society is there will be drop in productivity. Imagine a society where almost 20% of people are high on drug. How do they want to be productive in such society? So drug abusers cannot work well and they can't even learn well. So it definitely will affect, the productivity of such society. So there will be drop in productivity. Another effect of drug abuse on society is youth wastage, right? Youth wastage. So talented young people waste their lives on drugs. Yes, so it's you just realize that they are recording a lot of youth, dying and all of that. So effect on society is that there will be wastage of youth, youth that are talented, and then because they have messed up their life with drugs, and just they just waste their lives. And let me just end with security threat. So when we have a society that is filled with people that abuse drugs, of course there will be people that will be selling them, people that are smuggling the drugs in. So that will be security threat on the society. So drug cartels and smugglers tend to disturb the peace and order in the society. So that's that about the effect. So let's get right into the cure and prevention of drug abuse. Yes, drug and the cure, yeah. So let's start with the cure. That's like the treatment of drug abuse. How do you treat drug abuse? What are the treatment of drug abuse? So the first one is rehabilitation centers, places where addicts are treated and helped to recover. So that's one of the cure of drug abuse. You take the person to rehabilitation center where they are being taken care of. And then it's another treatment of drug abuse is counseling and therapy. So the person that's involved in drug abuse talk with experts to find better ways to manage stress. Instead of getting high on weed, you get your counselor, your therapist, excuse me, find better ways to help you manage stress. Another cure of drug abuse is medical treatment. So doctors give medicine to help reduce addiction symptoms. They give medicine to help reduce addiction symptoms. That's another cure. And then another cure would be support groups. If you watch all these Hollywood movies, you see people with different issues having support group, like people that are also in the same you know group with them, like people that are also recovering from drug abuse. So they come together, to encourage each other, right? They come together to encourage one another. So that's support group. So that's another cure of drug abuse. And then we can also talk about spiritual support. Some people find help through prayer, through church, you know guidance. So those are ways in which drug abuse can be cured. And the next subtopic before we move to another topic is the prevention of drug abuse. How do we prevent drug abuse in the society? How do we prevent it that people will not get involved in drug abuse? So prevention of drug abuse, the first one will be proper education. Yes, proper education. Teaching students early about dangers of drug abuse is very, very important. Teaching students early about the dangers of drug abuse is so important. You know, there should be, that's one. So prevention of drug abuse should be proper education, teaching students early about the dangers of drugs. Then number two will be positive peer groups. Staying with good friends who avoid drugs, moving with the right friends who avoid drugs, that can also prevent drug abuse in an individual. Then another way to prevent drug abuse is parental guidance. I mentioned how social media is one of the causes of drug abuse. So if parents, guide, watch what their children, what they see on social media, what they watch on TV, that can actually help. So parents must talk to their children and watch who they mix with, right? So that's parental guidance. And then number four, skill acquisition and youth empowerment. Yes, skill acquisition and youth empowerment. So helping youth learn trades or get jobs is also very important. Helping youth, so when they are not unemployed, right, they get useful, so they will not be idle. So skill acquisition and youth empowerment, is another way to prevent drug abuse. Then we have strict government laws. Yes, government need to impose strict laws For example, punish drug traffickers and sellers. So that would definitely reduce drug abuse. And then the last one would be that religious and moral teaching. So teaching discipline and self-control in church, in the society will also help in preventing drug abuse. So that will be all on drug abuse. What is the summary of the whole thing is that drug abuse means using drugs wrongly or excessively, and then drug abuse has many causes like peer pressure, depression, curiosity, and so on and so forth. Then effects include health damage, addiction, crime, and even loss of dreams, right? And then it can be cured through rehab, counseling, and medical help. And also preventing it involves proper education, good parenting, and strong laws. So what are the possible exam questions that you should prepare for? Yeah, the possible exam questions I think you should prepare for is they can ask you to define drug abuse and explain two forms of drug abuse, or list four causes and three effects of drug abuse on individuals. They can also ask you to explain two effects of drug abuse on society, right? Then describe any three ways drug abuse can be prevented. How can drug addicts be cured or treated? So please do well to try to practice any of those questions, and I wish you well in your exam. So if you are enjoying this video, please do well to like this video. If you have any questions, please do well to drop your questions in the comment section. I will definitely reply all your questions. Thank you so much, and please subscribe to my channel. I beg you. I need you to subscribe, please, to just help me, to encourage me, and please share with your friends. Thank you so much. So right now we are moving to cultism and occultism. So let's go to cultism and occultism. Yeah, cultism and occultism. What is this topic about? We are going to be looking at the history and the types of cults. That's the first subtopic that we will be looking at, the history and types of cults. So what's the definition of cultism? Definition of cultism. Cultism is the practice of belonging to a secret group that is often violent, dangerous, and hidden from the public. That's what cultism is. Practice of belonging to you. Someone belongs to a secret group that is often violent, dangerous, and hidden from the public. So these groups usually operate in schools or universities, and they are known for using force, fear, rituals, and illegal actions. That's what they are known for. So now we have cultism and we have occultism, right? What is occultism? Let's go to occultism. So occultism refers to beliefs and practices that involve secret knowledge. Beliefs and practices that involve secret knowledge, magic, spirit, charms, or worship of strange powers. That's what occultism is all about. So you can see that there's a difference between cultism and occultism. Cultism is the practice of belonging to a secret group. That person belongs to a secret group, that is often violent and all of that. Then occultism refers to beliefs you believe, right? And practices that involve secret knowledge, magic, spirit, charms, or worship of strange powers. So occultism is connected to supernatural powers and often include rituals, sorcery, fortune telling, and all of that, right? So there's a possibility that cultism sometimes might not even involve rituals, right? Some of them are just group of people that just want to fight and all of that. But cultism definitely has something to do with rituals, sorcery, and all of that. So now, brief history history of cultism. So cultism in Nigeria started in 1952. Yes, this was when Wole Soyinka and 6 others formed the Pirate Confraternity. at the University College Ibadan. So their goal was to fight against justice and oppression. That was their goal. So you see now that this their own cultism, it does not even involve rituals. They just don't like people being oppressed. They don't like people not being served justice. So these 6 others with Wole Soyinka formed the Pirate Confraternity at the University College Ibadan in 1952. However, over time, other secret groups emerged and turned violent and dangerous, especially on campuses. You can see. So now, today, many cult groups are now connected to crime, killings, rape, and robbery. Yeah. Unlike how we started, that it was just to fight against injustice, and right now, many cult groups are now connected to crime, killings, rape, and robbery, and so on and so forth. So let's go to the types of cult groups in Nigeria. The types of cult groups in Nigeria. The types of cult groups in Nigeria. All right, so we have Pirate Confraternity. That's the National Association of Sea Dogs. Yes, we have Black Hats. We have Black Hats. We have Buccaneers. That's the National Association of Sea Lords. We have Black Hats is known as New Black Movement. New Black Movement. We have the Eye Confraternity. I know that one is kind of popular to people that live in, all these. For example, I know I've heard of Eye before when I was in Ilorin, So there's Eye Confraternity. They call them Air Lords, right? Then we have the Aye Confraternity. This is the one they are like the Black Movement of Africa. Aye Confraternity. Then we have Daughters of Jezebel. This one's like is a female cult. We have Vikings Confraternity. We have, I can go on, right? And this talking about occult groups like when I talked about occultism the other time, this one includes like witchcraft societies, spiritists, diviners, all those ones. So now let's go to reasons why people join cults. Reasons why people join cult and occult. Why do they join cult and occult? Number one is the desire for power. I remember when I was in secondary school, one of my friends said that she really like to date the head of a cult group when she gets to the university. And I asked her why. She said, that's so that people can respect her, people can respect her in the campus. So desire for power is one of the reasons why people join cult and occult group. Many youth join to feel powerful or feared, so that people can respect them, people can fear them, so that's one of the reasons, desire for power. Then we have peer pressure, friends or seniors force or lure others to join. You get, if you have watched all these campus movie, the Nollywood movie, you see people that they don't want to join, but because their friends are in it, they have to join, and some are even forced or lured to join. So we can say peer pressure is reasons why people join cult and occult group. Then we have lack of home training. Yes. So poor parenting or absence of guidance can lead to cultism. Poor parenting, absence of guidance can lead to cultism. When someone is not well trained at home, or you don't have someone guiding you, and you feel some community of people that feel like they want you to be part of them. So lack of home training can also be considered as one of the reasons why people join occult and occult group. And then we have the desire for protection. So I said number one, desire for power. Then there's the desire for protection. Some join for protection from bullies. They don't just want to be bullied. So they join for protection from bullies or even threats, around them. So there's desire for protection. Then another one, there is revenge. Talking about desire for protection, I heard something that happened to a popular person in Nigeria, that he was beaten, and people said, it was because he didn't join a confraternity. So you have to join that confraternity for him to be protected, right? So that's why people join because of the desire for protection. And then we can say revenge. Some join to take revenge or fight back, like someone did something bad to you, and then you know that you can't fight the person alone, so the person joins cult group or cult group just to take revenge or fight back. And then another reason we can say is poverty and greed. Like occult groups now, they promise wealth to people, fame, they promise quick success, so people join occultic groups, you know join witchcraft groups because they said they will make you rich and all of that. So poverty and greed is another reason. And then we can't put aside curiosity or ignorance, you know trying to belong or not even knowing the dangers. Some people are just curious, like, "Ah, what's going on there? I even want to be part of them." Why some people, they are even ignorant, they don't know about the dangers of it, right? And then let me end with the influence of movies and music. So there's a way some media glorify cultism. When you watch all these Yoruba Nollywood movies, you see with the power that those witchcraft, the power they have, and people are like, I want to have this power so I can deal with people that people that are after my life, all those kind of things. So media glorify cultism. So we can say influence of movies. I mean, I get to know about witchcraft through movies, right? So influence of movies and music can be one reason why people join occult and occult group. So that being said, let's move to the effect of cultism and occultism. We are going to be looking at the effect of cultism and occultism on individuals and even on the society. So starting from individual, effect on the individual, loss of life. People die. Many cultists die in fight or police operations. So that's one major effect on the individual, loss of life. So if they ask you this question and you're stating loss of life as one of your answer, you tend to explain, okay, people die in the process of being involved in in cult. They tend to, like, they want to go and fight another cult group in another university, and they get to die. You get, so many cultists die in fight or police operations. And then number two, we can say effect on the individual is trauma. Some people, the ritual that they go through to become member can give them trauma. So some people, it could even be mental illness. So after engaging in ritual, some lose their minds. When they tell them, go and cut the thumb of one person, go and cut the nose of somebody, marital illness rather. So after engaging in ritual, some lose their minds. Then another effect on the individual, we can say academic failure. Yes, you see, most people, or let me just say a large fragment of people that join cults, especially in school, they skip classes, fail exams, or they even get expelled. So that's one another thing, academic failure. So, and then another effect of cultism on the individual, we have addiction. Many cultists take drugs, alcohol, or smoke heavily. So they get addicted to drugs, alcohol and smoking. Then another effect on the individual is criminal records. you know they may get arrested and imprisoned, and that's it. They now have criminal records. And lastly, another effect on the individual is fear and guilt. They constantly live in fear of being attacked. I remember one story that someone told me about a guy that it was during his last exam for him to graduate from the school that he was killed. Like, one of the court group just came to the school, to the exam hall, and the person shot him right there in the exam hall. So they constantly live in fear, of being. This is someone that has left home, left his hostel just because he had been hiding himself to just write that final exam and leave the school vicinity that day, and he was killed. So they constantly live in fear of being attacked, right? So let's look at the effect on society. The effect of cultism and occultism on society. There will be lots of violence and killings in the society. Imagine rival cult groups fighting with guns and machetes in the society. So there will be violence and killings in the society. Then it can also lead to school instability. You see schools, because of clash, and then there will be strike. So cult clashes lead to school closures and strikes. So that's school instability. And then the effect of this on society is also insecurity. So there will be fear in society, then panic will spread when cultists are around, you know. So there's insecurity, it leads to insecurity. And then another effect on society is social breakdown. So what does social breakdown mean? It means that peace and unity are totally destroyed in society, in the communities. There will not be peace, there won't be unity. Everything is there's just opera. Everything is there's chaos everywhere. So there will be social breakdown. And then lastly, we can say that the effect of cause and occult on society will be bad influence on youth. It has bad influence on youth. So more young people are attached to to crime and violence. More young people are attached to crime and violence. So now, having said all of this, how do we curb cultism on campuses? How do we curb cultism on campuses? Number number one way to curb cultism on campuses is value-based education. So don't just teach people engineering, don't just teach people um, linguistics. Teach moral values and dangers of cultism in schools. Let people know, especially from 100 level. Teach moral values. Let people know that this thing is wrong. I shouldn't get involved in this. So there should be value-based education. Teach moral values and dangers of cultism in schools. Then number two, how to curb cultism on campuses. Campus security is also very important. Campus security. So schools must tighten security and they must watch students closely. I graduated from University of Ilorin and I can say that inside that school, I have never experienced any cult group clash or whatever. Probably outside the school, there might be, but I've never heard. And that's because of how tight that school security is. So campus security is very important. If you want to curb cultism on campuses, schools must tighten security and they must watch students closely. Then another way to curb cultism on campus is counseling services. So there are some people that they are looking for who to talk to, who can counsel me so I can come out of this. So schools should provide regular guidance and mentorship, for students. So there should be counseling services for students. And then another way to curb it is punishment for offenders. So there should be strict laws, strict laws should be enforced against court members. So you know that when you do this, you are expelled. You will not even want to try. I think that's another thing that Unilorin did. That you already know that any mistake like this, expulsion, you are going on. So punishment, there should be punishment for offenders, and it should be strict. Strict laws should be enforced against court members. And then talk about the Christian folks, there should be programs to encourage students, okay, I mean, there should be like engagement programs, to encourage students to join sports that's on campuses, programs that will engage students so that they will not even be too idle to join court. So like joining sport clubs, church and all of that. Excuse me. And then another way to curb cultism on campus is parental monitoring. So parents also should monitor their children's behavior, the kind of friends they go out with, where they go to. Parents should need to also do their part rather. And then we have awareness campaigns. Yes, how to curb cultism on campuses. Awareness campaigns. You should use drama, talk shows, seminars to educate students so that they will understand. Nobody will be able to deceive them, about. So there should be awareness campaigns. And finally, there should be whistleblowing and reporting. You notice on campus that some people are doing one funny meetings. Reports. So we need to encourage students to report suspicious activities, anonymously. You can report without nobody knowing that you are the one that reported. So those are ways in which cultism can be curbed on campus. So the summary of the whole thing is cultism and occultism are dangerous practices involving secret groups and supernatural beliefs, and people join due to peer pressure, greed, fear or curiosity, and the effects include death, failure, insecurity, fear, and so on and so forth. And then prevention requires proper education as well, strict punishment, and family guidance. I can go on and on. So looking at the likely exam questions that they can ask you, yes, the likely exam question that they can ask you to define cultism and occultism. So do well to know the definitions. You can even check on Google, like how some scholars defined cultism and occultism to to buttress your point further. They can ask you to mention and explain 3 reasons why youth join cults. So I believe I did justice to that. They can ask what are the 3 effects of cultism on an individual. You should prepare for that. Then they can ask you to suggest 4 ways cultism can be curbed in schools. You should also be prepared for that. And they can ask you to name and explain 2 major cult groups in Nigeria. 2 major cult groups in Nigeria. So if you are still listening to me, if you are still watching, please do well to give me a thumbs up. If you're enjoying the video, do well to share with your friends, and please subscribe. Please, it means so much to me if you can just subscribe to this channel and on the notification button, so that when I drop other videos you know, right? And if you have other topics you want me to talk about, please do well to mention the topic. Don't keep quiet about it. I'm trying my best to help and ensure that you have thorough understanding of each of these topics. So right now let's move to HIV and AIDS. We are almost done. After this topic we have one more topic, and then I'll be done with this video. You should be expecting more in my next video. So let's look at HIV and AIDS. HIV and AIDS. So here we're going to start with the history, or let's say origin, of HIV and AIDS. So what is HIV/AIDS, right? HIV stands for human immunodeficiency virus. That's HIV. Then AIDS means acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Now HIV is the virus that attacks the immune system. Yeah, HIV is a virus that attacks the immune system, and if left untreated, it leads to AIDS. So AIDS is like the final and most severe stage of the infection. Let me take that again. So HIV is the virus that attacks the immune system. That's why it's called human immunodeficiency virus. And if HIV is left untreated, it leads to AIDS. AIDS is the acquired immune deficiency syndrome. So now let's look at the history and origin. So scientists, they believe HIV originated from a type of virus found in chimpanzees in Central Africa. So they believe that HIV, sorry about that, originated from a type of virus found in chimpanzees in Central Africa, and it is believed that this virus, crossed from animals to humans. When people hunted and had chimpanzees. So they believe that these chimpanzees were carrying the simian immunodeficiency virus, SIV. Simian immunodeficiency virus, SIV. You can Google about this, to learn more about it. So they believe that chimpanzees were carrying this virus, and then, and humans hunted and ate them, and that's how they got it. So the virus spread across Africa in the early 1900. In the early 1900, it reached IT, that IT is HAITI, in the 1960s, and then the USA by the 1980s. In the 1980s. So the disease became widely known after it was officially reported in the United States in 1981. So apparently people in Africa didn't even know that that virus had started spreading. So the disease became known after it was officially reported in the United States in 1981 among a group of men with unusual illnesses, right? So in Nigeria, HIV/AIDS became a national health issue in the late 1980s. In the late 1980s, that was when HIV and AIDS became a national health issue. right? So you can still research more on the origin of HIV. So right now, let's quickly move to the causes of AIDS. Yes, the causes of AIDS. So HIV does not spread by casual contact. It doesn't spread, through hugging or sitting next to someone, right? So how does it spread? How does it spread? Causes of AIDS. Number one, unprotected sexual intercourse with an infected person. That's one of the causes of AIDS. Unprotected sexual intercourse with an infected person. Number two, sharing sharp objects. Sharing sharp objects, right? Like razors, needles, syringes with infected people. When you share sharp objects with infected people, that's one of the causes of it. That's how HIV spread. Another thing, number three, would be transfusion of infected blood or blood products. So if the blood is infected, then HIV tends to spread. So we are looking at causes of AIDS, right? So transfusion of infected blood or blood products, excuse me. Now another way in which HIV spread, causes of AIDS, is mother to child transmission during pregnancy or birth or breastfeeding. So possibly the mother is infected, it can be transmitted to child during pregnancy, birth or breastfeeding. And then another causes of AIDS is use of unsterilized instruments. Yes, use of unsterilized instruments in hospitals, barber shops, or even traditional settings. Right, so I think that would be all. Or let me also add that when you using of same needle or syringe, like intravenous drug use, some people inject drug into their body, and imagine sharing syringe and the one person is already infected. So intravenous drug use using the same needle or syringe is another cause of AIDS. So let's look at the effect on individuals and society. Effect of HIV/AIDS on individuals, and then we look at the effect on the society as well. The effect on society as well. So number one effect is weak immune on individuals will be weak immune system. So it makes the body open to infections like tuberculosis. So the moment that person has it, that person's immune system becomes weak, and the person is open to infections like tuberculosis, pneumonia, and so on. Another effect on individuals is chronic tiredness and weight loss. I remember then when they do advert of HIV on TV, you see the person looking very thin. So effect on individuals, chronic tiredness and weight loss. Then another effect on individual is frequent illnesses. Yes, frequent illnesses like fever, diarrhea, some people rashes, right? Then another effect on individuals will be emotional and mental stress. You know, especially when people start stigmatizing the person, like don't sit beside that person, or he has HIV and all of that. So it can lead to emotional and mental stress on the infected person. So even fear, depression also can lead to emotional and mental stress. When the person is afraid, the person is depressed, that's another effect on the individual. Then another effect on individual is that it can lead to loss of job or schooling, due to health complications. Some people lose their job, they can't continue with school because of HIV and AIDS. Then another thing is death. That's like the last bus stop. So if untreated, HIV leads to AIDS, and then the AIDS leads to what? Leads to death. So let's look at the effect on society, the effect of this virus on society. Yeah, so number one effect on society, high medical cost, because the government want to take care of the people. Even the person involved will want to pay money, but in the society there will be high medical costs. Individuals and the government spend a lot on care. They spend a lot on care, having to be taking drugs back and forth, back to back, you know. So there will be high medical costs. Then there will be loss of manpower. What does that mean? Loss of manpower. When strong workers, are infected, youth are affected, people who will work. So that's loss of manpower. The people that are meant to work, there will be reduction now, no matter how little, there will be reduction. So there is loss of manpower when strong situation where strong workers or youth, are affected. Then effect on society, there's breakdown of families, especially when parents die and children become orphans. That's breakdown of family. So it means that, what makes a society? Family. So when a family is already losing their father and mother, that there's already a breakdown in that family, and it will definitely tell on the society. Right now, you're looking for who will take care of the children and all of that. So that's another effect on society. And then another effect of this virus on society is stigma and discrimination. Many infected people are rejected, or they are treated badly in the society. They are treated badly, they are rejected, people do not want to relate with them. So stigma and discrimination is another effect of this virus on society. And let me end with slower development. So because I said there will be reduction in productivity, there will be slower development in such society, you know and there will now be increased care burden. You want to take care of people, care burden will be too much. So now, having said that, how do we prevent the spread of HIV/AIDS in the society? How do we prevent it from an individual getting it from the society? How do we prevent it? So I would say the first way to prevent is abstinence. People always talk about abstinence, avoiding sex until marriage. Before you get married, they ask you to do HIV test and all of that. So abstinence is important. Being faithful to one partner is important. Staying with one uninfected partner is very important. And then use of condoms, always using protection during sexual intercourse is very important, with that to be able to prevent the spread of HIV/AIDS. And then avoid sharing sharp objects. Yes, use personal razors, personal clippers, and even needles. Don't say, let me just quickly use your blade. It doesn't mean anything. Avoid sharing sharp objects. And then prevention another way to prevent it is test blood before transfusion. People working in the hospital should not just do blood transfusion in a hurry. Test blood. Hospitals must screen blood properly. They must screen blood properly. And then proper sterilization. Yes, all barbing instruments should be sterilized. Don't let anybody use anything on you if they have not sterilized it. So there should be proper sterilization, and then there should be regular testing. People should know their status, so that there will be early detection, and then early detection will help treatment and prevention. If one can treat HIV, it won't result to AIDS. So there should be regular testing to know one's status. And also, I've said a lot, right? How to prevent it. There should be proper education and awareness. Inform people about how HIV spreads, how to protect themselves, from getting it. That will help prevent, the spread of HIV and AIDS, And then there should be proper support for infected people. You can't neglect them. So there should be reduction of stigma, reduce stigma, so that so people can get treatment and live healthy lives. So we should support infected people. It's important that we support infected people, right? We need to support infected people. So HIV has no cure yet, but it can be managed with drugs, like antiretroviral therapy. Yeah, it can be managed with drugs. And then people living with HIV can live long and healthy lives if they take their drugs consistently. So HIV does not spread through handshakes. or food or sharing toilet and all of that. So having said that, let's just do a summary of everything I've mentioned. HIV/AIDS is a virus that destroys the immune system and can lead to death if untreated. So it spreads mainly through unprotected sex, infected blood, mother to child transmission, and so on and so forth. The effects are both physical, like illness, death, and there's also the social effect like stigma and then poverty due to buying a lot of meds, excuse me. And then how do we prevent it? Abstinence, faithful relationships, using of condom, health education, and all of that. So the likely exam questions that you should be prepared for, likely exam questions you should be prepared for, they can ask you to explain the full meaning of HIV and AIDS and trace the origin, mention and explain 3 causes of HIV/AIDS, highlight 4 effects of HIV/AIDS on individuals, they can also suggest 4 ways HIV/AIDS can be prevented, or they can even ask you to briefly explain the origin of HIV and AIDS. So you should be prepared for that. Okay? So let me just remind you again that if you have not subscribed, please subscribe right now. Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe. Just click on the subscription button, please. And please share with your friends. Don't watch alone. Tell other people about this page. Look at the videos I've put together for you. Watch them, tell your friends to come and watch, and please comment below if you like the video. If you have any topic you want me to take, please comment below and give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm doing. Thank you so much. So very quickly to the last topic before this video ends. This topic is communal and religious conflict. So we'll be looking at what does types of conflicts. That's the communal and religious conflict. What does communal and religious conflict mean? That's what we'll be looking at. So let's get right into it. So the types and causes of conflicts. The types of conflict, right? We have communal conflict. So when they say something is communal, you can see the word communal. It sounds like community. So a conflict between different communities or ethnic groups, that's communal conflict, right? So these conflicts can happen over land, over boundaries, like, oh, this land is for our own community, it's for your own community, or people are sharing boundary and they feel like, oh, you have passed the boundary, this is where our own boundary is, and all of that. Then there could be conflict because of cultural differences, like in our own land we don't do this, in our own land our women don't do this, or it could even be leadership issue, right? So conflict between different communities or ethnic groups is what we call communal conflict, right? So now, what is religious conflict? Religious conflict is a conflict between people of different religions or even within the same religion. So a conflict between people of different religions or even with the same religion. So that means it could be a conflict between Christians or Muslims, or conflict between Christian and Muslims. So it could be within same religion or different religions. So this can also involve attacks on religious beliefs. I mean, that's one of the things that can lead to religious conflicts, when people are attacking religious beliefs, places of worship, or even leaders, right? So now let's move on to the causes of conflicts. Causes of conflict, right? So starting with cultural differences, that's one major cause of conflict. Cultural differences, ethnic and cultural differences. So different tribes or ethnic groups may have rivalries or misunderstandings. You get, like now I'm trying to cite an example. Like now you hear on social media when the Yoruba tribe and Igbo tribe, they're saying, oh, Yoruba people, they do ritual, that's how they get their money from. Igbo men are hardworking and all of that. So this can lead to conflict, misunderstandings, rivalries, and all. So ethnic and cultural differences is one of the causes of conflict. And then religious intolerance. That's another cause of conflict, religious intolerance. So when one group refuses to accept or respect another's religion, there will be conflict. So one group says we don't wear trouser, and another group of Christians is attacking them. That trouser is not a sin, the Christians should wear and all of that. So when one group refuses to accept or respect another's religion, there will be conflict. So that's religious intolerance. You must be able to tolerate other people's religion to avoid conflict. So another cause of conflict is land disputes. Yes, land and boundary disputes. So you see, if you watch all these local movies, you see, especially Yoruba Nollywood movies, you see one community fighting over the other community that, oh, this land is our land, it was gotten by our forefathers and all of that. So many communal conflicts start because of land ownership or where borders are drawn. Like this is where our own border started, you guys have entered our border and all of that. So land and boundary disputes is another cause of conflict. And then we have another cause of conflict is we have political disagreement. Yes, political disagreement. So what does this mean? When let me give you an instance before I explain. For example, now let's say in Nigeria now we have PDP, we have APC, right? And you see them throwing jabs at one another. So when political power is given to one group and the others feel cheated, like, oh, this is not the person that's supposed to win, you get what I mean? So that's political disagreement, and this can lead to what? Conflict. Another cause of conflict is poverty and unemployment. Yes, you see people go out to protest, and sometimes it even leads to conflict. You see people start beating themselves. Like now people are going out to protest that we are hungry, and some people that are the boys of the politicians that are leading, they also join, and then they start fighting, they start beating people that are coming out. So joblessness and hunger can lead to frustration, and which makes people easily influenced into violence. It makes people influenced into violence. You see how people go to malls to go and cut away with people's things because of poverty and unemployment. So that can lead to conflict in the society. And before I move to the next one, we can say ignorance also, and illiteracy. Lack of proper understanding of other people's beliefs and customs can lead to conflicts. And then the influence of religious leaders or even traditional leaders can lead to conflict too. There are sometimes that some leaders may preach hatred, or they can even call for violence against other groups. Like for example, that lady that was burnt in Kano, I don't know if it's Kano or Kaduna, Deborah, that because they said in her group, she said something about, I think maybe Allah or something, I can't really remember. And the people said they should gather together, and they burnt her to death. So religious leaders, traditional leaders can also be a cause of conflict, when they influence their followers, against other groups, call for violence against other groups. So now that we've talked about the causes, let's talk about the effects. Yeah, the effects. What are the effects? Let me take a water break. What are the effects of this? The effect of this on the individual, and then we'll be looking at the effect of this on the excuse me, I had to take water. I'm so sorry. All right, so let's look at the effect of conflict on the individual and the society. Yes, on the individual, we can say loss of lives and property. Yes, so people may be killed or even lose their homes and businesses because of conflict. You remember when people started looting the mall, you know, due to they said the government hid the palliative, and then after they tried to get the palliative, they started destroying other people's shops. So loss of lives and property on the individual. So people that owns shops in the mall, that's how they lost their own property. I remember a friend that was selling phones. They cut away all his phones, right? So on the individual, conflict can lead to loss of lives and property, and then on the individual, it can also lead to trauma and fear. People that have experienced conflict before, you know they suffer emotional and mental breakdown. I remember my grandpa still talking about the civil war, how these things still affect them emotionally, how these things still affect them mentally, seeing people being killed. So effect of conflict on individual is trauma and fear. So survivors of conflict may suffer emotional and mental breakdown. And then on the individual, we have displacement. What does displacement mean? You've heard of IDP camps before. So when there is conflict in the society, you burn a whole society down. People tend to flee for their life, and then they are displaced from even their families. So people may be forced to flee and become refugees or internally displaced persons. You know, I remember one lady that got involved with this guy Tunde that is into chess. This he found the girl at the IDP camp. The girl doesn't even know where her parents are. So you can see the result of conflict on an individual. People get displaced, and then there will be another effect on the individual is loss of education. Schools may be closed, and students may drop out, and some people, they might not be able to go back to school the moment it's closed. Some people even start doing handwork and they forget about school completely. So what about the society? What can we say are the effect of conflict on the society? Number one, we can say that the economy of the society will decline, definitely, because the business will collapse. I mean, if you are saying people should not go to work, businesses collapse, development stops. Even investors, people that are investing in the company, they withdraw. So on society, the economy will decline. And then another effect of conflict on society is that there will be lack of unity in the society, lack of trust. Different groups begin to live in fear and suspicion of each other. They are scared, oh, these people are coming to kill us. So there will be lack of unity. People are just, they're suspecting one another. You can't trust your neighbor and all of that. You don't know who will kill you tomorrow. So there will be lack of unity and trust in the society. And then another effect on the society is that religious and ethnic division. People become divided along tribal lines. You hear people say, and we want to have Igbo nation. That's the effect on society. People want to be divided. They don't want to be together again. Even religious aspect, people want to just separate. You get. And another thing is there's also the damage that it will cause on the national image. Other countries will not see your nation as unstable and unsafe to come to, because of they've heard of several conflicts happening, right, in a society. So it makes it unsafe. So it damages, it brings damage to like the national image. So right now, let's go to the how to prevent conflict. I think that's the next subtopic. How do we prevent conflicts? How do we prevent conflict? There are many ways. I believe that even without me telling you now, you are already thinking of ways to prevent conflict. So before I say it, say two. Tell yourself two ways you can prevent conflict in the society. All right, I believe you already have two in your mind. So I'm going to start with there should be good leadership and governance. Yes, For us to prevent conflict in the society, leaders should be fair to all groups, regardless of tribe or religion. Leaders need to be fair to all groups. Yes. So when there is good leadership and good governance, we will be able to prevent conflict in the society. And also, another way to prevent conflict, there should be room for dialogue. You know, we need to encourage peaceful conversations in the society. When two people are having loggerhead, they are not agreeing, there should be room for peaceful conversations and negotiations instead of violence, instead of saying, oh, let's go and kill, let's go and fight them. Dialogue and mediation is very, very important. So how to prevent conflict? Dialogue and mediation is another way to prevent conflict. Encouraging peaceful conversations, right, instead of violence. And then another way to prevent conflict is promoting religious and cultural tolerance. People need to be able to tolerate another person's religion. You get? So we need to teach people to respect different beliefs and customs. Respect people's beliefs and customs. If that is what they say they do in their own tribe, leave them alone. Don't say, oh, they are stupid, they are foolish for believing that. Tolerate people's culture, tolerate people's religion. So we should promote religious and what and cultural tolerance, right? How can we prevent conflict again? There should be job creation and youth empowerment. Yes, people, when people are engaged, they will not even have room to go and be fighting up and down. So job creation and youth empowerment reduce poverty. So when there is job creation, when there is youth empowerment, poverty is reduced. you know Youth empowerment, there should be training for young people. You are training them on on some skills that would help them in future, so people will not even have time for the conflict thing, right? And another thing, another way to prevent conflict is proper law enforcement. People should be arrested and punished, especially those who promote violence, those who are spreading hate. Arrest them, punish them, so that other people can learn their lesson that no, I can't get involved in this. You get? So there should be proper law enforcement. And lastly, I would say that there should also be another way to prevent conflict is there should be public enlightenment campaigns. The media, community programs should be used to teach peace, should be used to teach tolerance in the society, so people can know we don't have to fight, we can have conversation and agree. So there should be public enlightenment campaigns. And I also say that there should be justice and equity in the society. If you want to prevent conflict, there should be justice and equity. We should ensure that everyone is treated fairly and everyone has equal rights in the society. Everyone should be treated fairly and everyone should have equal rights in society. So I want you to know that these contemporary issues, they are topics that if they ask in your exam, it's easy to pass because you can relate with them. You understand? You can relate with them. There are things happening in your society. It's just for you to have you study more so that you have things to write when you see questions like that. All right, so let's move to the final subtopic under this topic. The final subtopic: values of peaceful coexistence. What are the values of peaceful coexistence? When there is peaceful coexistence, what do we tend to gain? Unity. Yes. So different groups can live together in peace and harmony. So there is unity in diversity. We are from different groups, but we can live together in peace. We can live together in harmony. Another value is that there will be development. A peaceful environment, encourages business, education, good governance. So, and there will be growth, in that society. And then another value of peaceful coexistence is better relationships. When there is peace, people can form friendship across tribes and religions. I can decide I want to marry an Igbo person. I can decide I want to marry an Hausa man. So better relation. When there is peaceful coexistence, there will be better relationships, and also there will be national progress. So citizens can contribute fully to the country's success when there is peace. So the country will be able to move forward when there is peace in the society. And also, let me end with people feel safe. So there is security and stability in the society. The value of peaceful coexistence is that it brings security and stability to the society. People feel safe, you know, and then the leaders are even they are able to run the society smoothly, you know, they're able to run the society smoothly. So that will be all on this topic. Quick summary: conflict can be communal or religious, you know. Causes of conflict include intolerance, poverty, bad leadership. And what are the effects? The effects range from death to economic damage and so on. And prevention involves education, yes, let people be enlightened. Then there should be fairness, that's justice and equity. And then respect other people's religion, respect other people's culture. Then there should be peaceful coexistence. And what does this bring? Peaceful coexistence brings growth to the society, it brings love, it brings progress to the society. So that will be all for tonight's class. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. I'm deeply grateful. Please, before you go, do well to subscribe, share, and like. And on your notification button so you know when I drop the next video. Thank you for watching to the end. Bye.